All right, let's begin. Thank you again for joining us today on the latest Zoey Merchant webinar. Today's topic is actually a broader topic with a panel of presenters around the issue of security, both on your merchant side and on your customer side. Today we have a pretty packed agenda. This is going to be a little bit longer than our normal webinar, but we have a lot of great information to share with you today. We're going to start by giving you a bit of a security overview around Zoey. We've got Zoey President Uri Foox on the line who's going to talk to you about that. We have a presentation from TrustGuard, which does site compliance and scanning technology, which we actually have in certain plans, so some of you may already be able to take advantage of this as part of your plan, but for the rest of you, it's also available. And then we're also going to have PageSeal presenting today. We've got Tal on the line, and he's going to talk to you about another aspect of security you might not always think about, which is what happens when customers have something on their computer that interferes with their shopping experience on your site. And they have a technology that's designed to help with that, and we'll be able to tell you a bit about that. And as always, we'll end with our Q&A, which is your chance to ask questions of our panel. So with that, we'd like to remind you that you can participate in the Q&A by using the questions feature inside GoToWebinar. After the presentations, we'll review the questions and we'll be able to provide answers for you. And our goal is to go over as many as we can within the time allowed. If for some reason we can't get to all of your questions, we'll certainly follow up via email to all of you so you can have the Q&A available to you. We're also making this recording available afterwards in case you miss a portion of it. We'd like to remind you that on the Merchant Webinars page, you not only can see a list of the upcoming sessions, but also recordings of previous webinars. We usually post them within 24 hours, so if you do miss a portion of today's presentation, not to fear, we do have that available for you, and it'll be on that page. At this time, I'd like to start off today's presentation by introducing Zoey President Uri Foox. He's going to speak to you a little bit about Zoey and the security features that we have in place and steps that we take to keep your site secure.
All right. Thank you, Josh. I assume you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, terrific. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar today. I'm excited to talk to you about Zoey Security. Of course, this is going to be a high-level overview, and I've tried to break it down into a few different sections of the application and the network, as well as some third-party tools that you can use and work with in order to have enhanced security on your Zoey store. So first off, I'll start off by talking about the Zoey network. As you know, Zoey is a SaaS platform, which means everything is hosted by us and managed by us as well. What that means is that whenever you go to a website that's hosted by Zoey, you're essentially using the Zoey network as well as several other cloud technology providers, most notably Amazon Web Services. So Zoey's network is actually pretty distributed and resilient. We don't run everything out of one data center. We actually have multiple data centers, not only around the United States, but also around the world. And what this allows us to do is have a resilient network. In the event that one data center is unavailable or one data center is under some sort of attack, for example, a denial of service, we are able to route the traffic elsewhere and to bring your website back up. We've also taken great care to lock down and really work on the firewall rules at Zoey. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with a firewall, essentially all network traffic that is both inbound and outbound is essentially looked at by the firewall. Every single packet that crosses the network is inspected. And through a series of rules, both allow and deny, we are able to filter out good and bad traffic. Over the last year, we've spent an enormous amount of time in constructing an architecture that really limits the exposure of what is available to attack. We call that the surface vector in terms of the network security. Many computers, for example, personal computers or unconfigured servers, by default come with a firewall that is extremely loose in the rules that it allows to be passed through. So the attack vector that somebody can exploit is rather large. Different services, different applications on a computer or on a server listen on different ports. And unless you have firewall rules that either specifically allow or deny those those ports from being accessed, then the traffic can get through. Zoey really only enables a few very select ports, and those, of course, are HTTP, which you're all familiar with, HTTPS, which is another really popular one, But then, of course, some additional ones, for example, DNS, so that our servers can translate the domain names that our merchants use or your customers use into the actual IP addresses to route the traffic to, as well as mail, so that we have the ability to send confirmation emails and other transactional emails out, as well as NTP, which for those of you who are unfamiliar is actually the network time protocol. So all of our servers synchronize with a centralized set of servers that keep the time accurate. Beyond that, we really try to lock down everything else. And when Zoey first started several years ago, this was certainly not possible within our application. We had a lot of other ports that had to be opened for various reasons, but over time we've really narrowed it down. And so the list of ports that we run is relatively small, which makes the attack surface against Zoey also small. In order to gain any access to our network, you would have to find some sort of vulnerability within these available connections, and these available connections all run extremely standard open source software that's used by the overwhelming majority of the internet. And so you know, anything that would affect Zoey at that point would also affect many other websites as well. Beyond that, we've also secured everything within Zoey to be key-based access authentication. And so for those of you who are unfamiliar, a traditional login system would be a username and password, right, such as an email address and then, you know, a password. A key-based authentication system is a step beyond that. And essentially what that does is it requires for you to have a public key and for the, for you to have a private key and for the server to have the public key. As the name implies, the public key is what you can share with everyone else, and the private key is what you keep secret to yourself. The exchange of public and private keys is probably best represented using HTTPS. That is a standard way that the internet works and how authentication is done. And the reliability and security of a key-based authentication is well above a password-based authentication simply by virtue of the actual algorithms that go into exchanging this information. If you're interested in learning more cryptography and HTTPS and key-based authentication, there's a lot of additional materials that you can run and learn with. Having said that, the important thing to remember here is that the key-based authentication is more secure, and on top of that, we also have passwords. You know, even if you are logged into the systems or some of the back-end systems of Zoey, there's also additional checks with passwords that you have to do. Furthermore, for those of you who are unfamiliar with SSL Labs, it's a great website that you can go in and test the strength of the HTTPS connections to your server. I ran a sample test here with one of our stores from our merchants, and as you can see, Zoey scores an A. The only higher rating than an A is, of course, an A+, and the reason why Zoey does not get an A+ and only gets an A is because as a software as a service provider, we do have to maintain some level of broadness in terms of how we accept incoming connections, especially from older mobile devices, older browsers, and so to be very restrictive, which requires an A+, would mean that to some detriment to our customers, some of their customers would not be able to connect. So we always think about the sweet spot between security and stability and accessibility, and so, you know, an A is definitely as good as it almost can get, right? So I would feel very secure knowing that you have an A rating within your Zoey store. From a data perspective, right, so once you've actually made the connection into the Zoey infrastructure, what happens with the data that is passed back and forth? Well, first of all, we offer site-wide HTTPS. Other service providers either don't offer this or charge you a premium for it. This is included with every single Zoey plan. In fact, from an SEO perspective, as Google came out last year and said, they are looking to force the internet to be HTTPS. You may have noticed in some of the latest versions of Google Chrome when you visit websites that says not secure. Well, with Zoey, you can definitely take advantage of site-wide HTTPS. I'm sure we've all heard and have seen the challenges of different companies having their data leaked or hackers taking databases and things like that. That is not immune to any company. That is not something that can be prevented, but what can be prevented is the ability to extract information once that data has been accessed or breached. And so all Zoey information that needs to be encrypted is encrypted. It's encrypted using SHA-256, which is an extremely modern hashing algorithm, and your data is extremely private and secure. The important thing to take away here is that it's a one-way hash, so there are different cryptography suites that can either give you a two-way hash, which means that knowing the password, you can type it in and it will give you a predictable outcome that you can then work backwards from. In Zoey, we encrypt everything using a one-way hash, meaning if you encrypt the same string of text once, you'll actually get two different outcomes. Again, if you want to learn more about how this works or why this works, there's many topics you can read about cryptography that we won't be able to get into today, but certainly something that's very important. Finally, HTTPS, it requires TLS 1.2. And I know that about a year ago, this caused some of our merchants a bit of grief, especially as other companies were still catching up to this. PayPal, for example, is a great one that moved to TLS 1.2 early on. Many companies have moved to it. TLS 1, TLS 1.1 were compromised in some way. It's very difficult to, of course, replicate this compromise, but the fact is that once something is compromised, it can't ever be trusted, especially when you're talking about encryption. So Zoey was one of the first SaaS providers to force TLS 1.2, and so every single connection to Zoey requires it. The internet has stepped up and has moved along and has progressed quite well in forcing TLS 1.2 across the board, and so you should be safe and secure using the latest protocol. We also audit and log everything, so I know that this sounds like an enormous amount of information, and it is, but given that we log everything, we're also able to find abnormalities, we're able to look at patterns, we're looking at anything that looks intrusive or anything that looks out of the ordinary, and even if we can't look at it in real time, that data is kept for a while. We have various retention policies around logs, but the beauty of it is that even if something happens and we don't notice it right away, we are able to go back and correlate that data later on. And then when people want to try to break into your network, when people want to try to get into your data, they're not going to be able to do it on the first try. It's going to take them quite a bit of time. And so one of the things that we have are rate limiting policies that we can use in order to make sure that requests to certain endpoints, for example, think about someone trying to guess your password. They would probably have to guess it many times before they were able to do it, right? And so we've got rate limits as to how often somebody can target a URL. We get notified if these thresholds are exceeded or abnormalities happen. And then finally, with respect to your data, everything is segmented. So even in the event, which has never happened and we don't believe will, but even in the event that something is broken into or something is compromised, all of the data is segregated from one another, which means that even at that point, an attacker would need even deeper access into our infrastructure in order to compromise additional services. And this firewall and separation of data is a great prevention tool from having mass leaks or mass problems in terms of your security. Of course, as we're going to find out on this webinar, PCI compliance is of utmost importance. We pass all standard PCI compliance checks. I believe we even go above and beyond what needs to be passed. We've got 24/7, 365 monitoring. As I mentioned, we look at traffic patterns that are recognized and recorded. And then finally, we've also got intrusion detection technology, which is what we call deep packet inspection to be able to take a look at some of the other ancillary things that are crossing the border of our network. I did want to point out a few third-party tools that we use or that you may think about using. Number one is Let's Encrypt. Every single Zoey merchant now gets a 256-bit SSL certificate, which is the highest level of encryption that's offered today. We made the decision late last year to switch everyone from having their own SSL certificates that had various levels of not only security but complexities in installing and maintaining and updating them before they expired, we now take that responsibility. We manage, monitor all SSL certificates. We are Cloudflare compatible. So if you guys have not heard of Cloudflare, it's a great security-focused company. You can use Cloudflare with Zoey. We've got a few merchants that use it. They do offer some services that are not compatible with Zoey, such as the Rocket Loader, but from a security standpoint, you'll be able to take advantage of everything that Cloudflare offers. I would definitely check that out. If you're unfamiliar with SSL Checker or SSL Labs, these are two great resources to take a look at and verify your own website. Although Zoey does it for you, it never hurts to check. And then finally, one thing that I frequently see our merchants struggling with is SPF. And so SPF is actually in your DNS. It's the same place where you change or you change your IP address to point to Zoey. If you use Gmail, if you use Outlook 365, really, I would say most people have an SPF record that they might not be aware of even. So the SPF record essentially says to the internet, for this domain name, who is authorized to send mail on my behalf. And so you definitely want to add the Zoey IP address into your SPF record. For more information on this, you can certainly open up a support ticket. We'll be happy to check your domain name or give you more information about the SPF record itself. But this is definitely something that you can use not only to secure your domain, but also secure anyone spoofing or emailing on behalf of your domain that's not authorized. So this is another really good trick to take a look at and to make sure you've got implemented. At a high level, before I pass this on, security is definitely of the utmost concern to everybody here at Zoey. We implement very strict standards. We are on the cutting edge. Sometimes we will make decisions that adversely affect insecure devices or insecure computers for the greater good, such as the TLS 1.2. But we know that the decisions that we make keep your data safe, and especially as transactional e-commerce websites, security is our #1 priority. So I hope that this information has enlightened you into some of the steps that we take on a day-to-day basis in securing Zoey. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And of course, as we continue to improve and enhance our security, I'll be back and share some more information with you. For now, I want to pass this on to TrustGuard, who's going to talk about their solution. This is a great tool that we partnered up with last year to offer not only to our merchants, but just in general to validate the work that we've done, and I think it has been validated. So I will pass it along and look forward to any questions that you have.
Thank you, Uri. Before we have TrustGuard jump in, I did want to quickly talk about this really quickly since we have it on the screen. Zoey has been encountering many different companies that do scanning and so forth. And obviously, as merchants come to us with the scans, we take a look at them to make sure that we're always doing our best, and we have a very good track record there. TrustGuard scan is one of the most comprehensive. They actually look for 75,000 different types of things, everything from malicious code to areas of concern where you might have something that's less than secure or areas of risk. And we had them scan both Zoey.com and a standard Zoey store, so both our website, of course, but also what you would get as a customer when you first sign up, and they didn't find one issue. So out of 75,000 plus different items that they're looking for, they found 0 items of concern. And we think that's really important to share with you, and it just underscores that we're really keeping an eye on the areas that risk can take place and making sure that we're doing our very best to minimize and eliminate them where we can. In fact, if you go to the Zoey website now, which I'm going to activate my screen once again right now, you'll be able to see that we actually have activated the TrustGuard badge. So you also have the ability to verify what we're saying. So by clicking on the TrustGuard badge, you'll actually see the pop-up. You can see when the scan takes place. We do ours on Zoey.com quarterly in this case, and as of the last scan, we are good. You can also see that our SSL certificate for Zoey.com is good through the end of February next year. So it helps you feel a little more confident when you're looking at sites with this badge. And that's part of the reason why we work with TrustGuard, because you too, as a merchant, will be able to take advantage of that reputation confirmation that these steps have been taken for you. So at this point, what we'd like to do is to introduce Luke. Luke is with TrustGuard, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more about what they offer and how they can help you both confirm your security as well as pass that information on to your merchants. So Luke, I'm going to pass it over to you, and you can take it away.
Thank you, Josh, and your team. I appreciate this opportunity. I just want to verify, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see your screen.
I can see.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. You know, I'm not used to these webinars where I do all the talking and nobody talks back, so we'll see how this goes. Again, I appreciate this partnership with Zoey. Like they said, we did the scan on them and they passed, which is not normal. In fact, generally people fail. In fact, I was talking to a payment card company just the other day, the CEO, and he said every one of his clients have failed. And so Zoey is definitely doing what it takes to be compliant, and so kudos to them. A little background on TrustGuard. We've been in the industry for over a decade now, almost 11 years. We did start in the basement, and now we have over 6,000 different customers throughout the world, thousands of customers all over. We're a global leader in PCI compliance and cybersecurity. So that's just kind of a little background about us. Let's go into this a little bit. You know, the former Google CEO said, hey, when we were creating the internet and building this thing, we didn't think about the bad guys. We didn't think about, oh yeah, somebody could come in and steal this or that or the other and take that, and so we had to play catch up. You know, in fact, it's estimated that there's roughly 37,000 websites attacked every single day. Holy moly. This includes not only human hackers, but also automatic hacking bots that are crawling the web 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, looking for weak points to gain entry into all kinds of sites. To fight back against cyber attacks, you need someone on your side who is equally relentless, and that's TrustGuard. We're continually working to expand and enhance our security solutions to ever meet the ever-evolving threats and risks present in today's enterprise environments. So so I had a video. I wasn't able to get it to work. I apologize. It's a 60 minutes video where they interviewed the FBI, who are doing research and trying to catch these cyber crime criminals, and talking about, you know, hey, we've caught hundreds of them, but every time we catch them, there's more that show up, and that's a serious, serious problem. And I'm sure you've seen it in the news and so forth. I'm sure you've seen some of these companies in the news. Target, you ever shop at Target or Home Depot? You know, I can't do any honeydews unless I go to the Home Depot. P.F. Chang's, love that Chinese food. These bigger companies we see in the news, we see that they're getting hacked. We don't see the, like I just mentioned, the 37,000 a day that are getting hacked. This is serious. I know it's not the most interesting thing to talk about, security, but it's super serious and it's super important. These companies are getting blacklisted from Google. They're getting sued. They're losing their website totally. They're not being able to process credit cards at all because the PCI Council is saying, no more. And here you can see that 84% of all merchants fail their first scan. So I wanted to just briefly talk about what is the PCI Security Standards Council. I think this is important. They're that's not a word. They're a global forum that is responsible for development, management, education, and awareness of the security. They are endorsed by American Express, Discover, JCB, MasterCard, and Visa. Let's see. They require merchants and service providers that store, process, or transmit customer payment card data to adhere to information security controls and processes that ensure data protection. So basically, to sum it up, these guys got together and said, hey, look, we got to make sure that our customers' card information, credit card information is secure. What are we going to do? And so they created a few things that that they require, and that the rest of us get to follow. So do you need to be compliant? Absolutely. We've talked about that. The one thing that Uri talked about just before I went is he talked about the importance of an SSL. That's part of their requirement. That's the first thing on their list is that you need to have an SSL certificate. As much as I'm out on the internet, I've seen so much traffic and so many different websites, but rarely am I seeing the site nowadays without an SSL. I see some that are outdated, which is scary, but most people have SSL, so that's important. So most people understand, okay, to be PCI compliant, I need an SSL, but they don't understand the importance, and also that's required is a minimum of a quarterly scan by an approved scanning vendor. So we're required to every year to get approved by the PCI Council, and it's a rigorous process. And a lot of our competitors are going further and further away from that, so there's fewer and fewer of us that are actually approved scanning vendors because it is so difficult. But we've decided not only to exceed the expectations of the PCI Council in that regard, but we've added HIPAA compliance and SEC compliance and FINRA compliance and several other compliancy programs out there that we are compliant to, so that we will exceed all these expectations. So as Josh mentioned, we look for over 75,000 different vulnerabilities. It's continually growing. We research and develop and are always looking for more. But the cool part about that is that we don't pass that research and development and the increase in number of vulnerabilities that we're searching for onto our clients. Once you're locked in for life. And in fact, in over 10 years, we've only increased our price a couple times. So we're not about doing that. We're just about doing the right thing. And then the third part of the PCI requirement is to have what's called a self-assessment questionnaire. If you've ever done one of those, you'd rather shoot yourself in the foot, I think, than complete it. It's a rigorous task, but we've created a wizard that makes that process easier, to makes it doable. And not only that, but we have it so it's saved. So every year when you're required to go and do that, and your clients are required to go and do that, it's saved. So all they have to update is the changes that took place that year, and it's good to go. And then they show that they passed our scan. I just wanted to briefly touch on this as well. Malware is a problem too, and it's included in our vulnerability scans. And I just wanted to briefly touch on it because sometimes it gets forgotten. But we're out there looking for viruses and spyware too. So I just wanted to make that clear there as well. So TrustGuard keeps your website, your server, your IP address, and your point-of-sale card reader safe. It's not just the website. So if you have customers out there that or have their mom and pop shop down at the corner, but they're using phones, cell phones, you're using iPads and all these things to take people's money. I've gone to some of these and it's kind of sketchy where you're sliding your card across this little scanner. But we can scan those and make sure that they're secure and safe. And we can do it at a super reasonable rate. Let's see, let's look here. What's next here on my list? Additionally, you don't want to get the non-compliance fees that come from your card companies. You don't want to get blacklisted, again, like I mentioned before, from Google and so forth. And more importantly, you want to give yourself and your customers a peace of mind that you're protected. So there's two parts that we provide at TrustGuard. Again, Josh mentioned our SIL and showed our SIL. Because when customers, and it shows right here, 88% of online consumers surveyed wanted to know that their site was safe and secure. Yeah, when I go on to Nike.com, I feel pretty comfortable right? I can go on there and buy what I need. But when I go to shoes, abc-123.com, I may be a little concerned. Even though they have a better price, it looks like the same product, so forth and so on. My friends told me about it. It's still a little sketchy. But if I see the seal that I've seen before and I click on it and it shows me that they're secure, then I feel better as a consumer, as a buyer. And so that's why we've helped increase the number of sales that our clients do. In fact, we've averaged, with our thousands of different customers, we've averaged 15% increase in conversion rate. That's huge. Imagine if your company took a 15% increase this year. How would that look? That's literally what we provide, because consumers now feel more comfortable and confident in buying. Here's a couple of our trust seals. We have lots more different colors. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but the bottom one, bottom left, that black one, we have green ones. That's a floater seal that floats along. That's our most popular seal and it has the highest conversion rate. But whether someone is buying a $20 item from you from their phone or a high dollar item on your site or desktop, on their desktop, they have some trepidation about making the purchase that they're not familiar with, if they're not familiar with your business. To alleviate your customers' fears about making online purchase, the TrustGuard seal will be right there, assuring the customer that it is safe to make the purchase. The Trust Seal is an essential tool to give your buyer peace of mind as they as they type in their credit card information. So anyways, those seals, that's pretty exciting. I mean, it seems silly to have this seal and so forth, but as Josh showed it, it pops up, it tells exactly what's going on. It shows that the SSL is good, that the malware is taken care of, that the site is secure. And let me just touch briefly while I'm here is because so many people do fail, we don't want them to fail. So we provide, hey, look, this is what needs to be done to get these fixed. We show them how to get them fixed on our reporting. Even though we're super robust in our scans, our reports, we make it super easy to find, super easy to fix. They get them fixed, and then we offer unlimited free rescans until they pass. And so we want our customers to pass. So that's what we do. That's what we offer there. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Anyway, again, we've been around since 2006. Here's some of our clients. Again, we have thousands. These are some of our bigger clients. You've heard of Build.com, Wards.com. You've heard of Fathead. If you haven't heard of Fathead, you should check that out. That's a cool site. So anyways, we do provide services to these customers and so many more. There was another video I wanted to show you. You can always check it out. You go to YouTube and check out TrustGuard, and you'll see a couple of our cool videos there. That's all for me. I appreciate your time. Again, Josh, thanks for your team. I didn't want to take a whole lot of time today. I just really appreciate it. There's my personal contact information. I'll leave it there on the screen for just a second. You're welcome to take a look at that and contact me directly. Again, I'll be available at the end of the webinar as well for any questions that you may have. I really appreciate the partnership with Zoey. They're really doing everything they can to be compliant and to be secure, and you should feel very comfortable and confident that they're doing all that they can for you and your clients. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke, for the presentation. I do want to note a couple of things related to TrustGuard that's important for our merchants. One thing that's really helpful to note is that TrustGuard is actually a part of our Business Plus and Premier packages. So if you already have one of those plans, you qualify to have TrustGuard scanning at no additional cost to you as part of your package. You actually get a monthly scan as part of that package. As Luke said, a quarterly is sort of the minimum, but we give a monthly scan, and you do have the ability to put that badge on your site. So we definitely want to encourage our merchants in Business Plus and Premier to look at that and take advantage of that. If you're on the business plan, the $199 plan, it is available as an add-on. We actually are, as part of our relationship with TrustGuard, are able to offer it at about a 10 to 12% discount. The monthly scan is $57 a month, and we're offering it for $50 to our merchants. So if you're interested in that, just simply open a support ticket with Zoey, and we can get the process started for you to get you a badge. We did receive a couple really good questions during this portion of the presentation. I just want to remind you that at the end of the presentation, we'll enter a Q&A session where we'll address all of those questions. At any time, you can submit your question using the questions feature of GoToWebinar, and we'll be able to provide answers for you. In the event we can't get to everything, we will certainly follow up after the webinar, but we should be able to address all of the questions today. For our final portion of the presentation, I'd like to introduce Tal. He's with PageSeal, and he's going to tell you a little bit about a different part of security that many times we see but don't understand necessarily the effects of, which is dealing with the effects of your customers and what they may have on their computers that interferes with your site's shopping experience. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Tal, and he can tell you a little bit more about how PageSeal helps with that problem.
Hi everyone. Thank you very much, Joshua. Great. So let's start with the first slide. I'll give you a bit of an overview about PageSeal. Then we'll go through the problem. I'll explain the product. Not sure if we will have time or are able to do a demo, but definitely if anyone is interested in seeing more, understanding more, they will be able to reach me after the presentation. Let's go to the next slide. Excellent. So a bit about the PageSeal. So we come from a very deep understanding of cyber threats that emerge from the client side, from actually the computers that your customers, your users are using. We've been protecting for the last couple of years sites, mainly in the search arena. I won't specify exactly customers, but like the Bing search and others that are highly targeted by hackers that try to circumvent traffic for search sites. It's a very lucrative business of tens and even more of millions of dollars a year.
Hi everyone, it looks like we may have lost Tal's audio. While we're working to restore that, what we'll do is we'll begin and go back to some Q&A with our original presenters, Luke and Uri, and once Tal's audio is restored, oh, actually he may be coming back now, then we can resume the presentation. So we'll just give him a moment to confirm that he's back online and ready to go. In the short term though, Luke, if you're there with me, if you can just confirm, and I have a couple questions for you that came up during your portion of the presentation.
Yep, I'm here.
One of the questions that came up is relating to the badge. So let's assume that a merchant makes it through the correct steps. Would you be able to get the seal on the website automatically, or is it something that they're going to paste in themselves?
So it's a really simple process. Yeah, we provide it for you. We provide you a dashboard with all of our different seals so you can pick which one's best. You can place it where you want. We do have some suggestions of what we've seen work over the last 10 years that we'd be happy to help you with, like putting it at the top of your website, and then also at the checkout you want to have it there as well. And then our most popular, like I mentioned, is the hover seal that moves while your screen moves. And so, but yeah, so once you've passed, then you go ahead and put the seal on, but it's there and it's available for you to use.
And I'll just note that as far as the Zoey site's concerned, it's a small code snippet, and similar to other snippets that you can put onto your page, you can put it into an HTML block and it's displayed in various portions of the site. So it's really just a copy and paste using the code snippet in the design center. So that's how you would display it, but it isn't automatic, unfortunately. There is a simple step that needs to be taken first just to display it on the site. That's exactly how we did it on ours as well.
Yep. That's exactly right. And then if you ever need any help, our developers are happy to help as well.
Excellent. Let's do a quick audio check. Tal, are you back with us yet? All right, Luke, another question for you then in the moment. One of the questions that came in is if TrustGuard is on the PCI Council's approved scanning vendors list, and if you could just speak a little bit to that.
Yep, we're partnered with Clone Systems. And so, yes, we are on there. So you can go to that website. You can click on approved vendors, and you'll see Clone Systems, and that's our partner. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Joshua, can you hear me?
Yes, I think, Tal, we've got you back. So perfect timing. I was just about to check and see if you were ready to resume.
Okay, excellent. Great. So let's run to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, so the bottom line is that this problem is a bit under the radar. A lot to do with the fact that there's no real solution available right now beside PageSeal. According to various publications, up to 30% of your customers, the users, are experiencing difficulties, redirection, click-jacking, and other types of hacks from the client side when they are accessing your site. It depends if you're an e-commerce site, which maybe it's a bit more lucrative to steal some information or generate some revenues via affiliate scamming and stuff like that, or if you're a publisher or in a different vertical. Recently, Google published two reports that stated that 5% of Google's users are affected by ad injectors, and another 5% are affected by malicious plugins. So it's definitely very prevalent types of attacks. However, currently not pretty much the website do not have any sort of offering that can protect them from these types of attacks. So let's go to the next slide. So on one end, you have malwares. Malwares are types of let's say malicious plugins, toolbars, any sort of software that the user was persuaded to download, maybe as part of a bundle of, let's say, codec. You download the codec to see certain formats of videos, and suddenly you have this malware in the client within the client computer, and then that type of software, which is very lucrative for the hacker, can do all kinds of damage. They can display invasive ads, steal username and passwords, and pretty much do whatever they want to do within the browser. Now, there are also legitimate plugins that you download because you want to get maybe directions, maps, shopping comparison, and so forth, that they interact with your application in a way that slows down the user interaction. They can hide important content. They have a lot of power over the browser, and they can again do whatever they want and pretty much not consider what the benefit for your site. Let's go to the next slide. So this is, for example, a page view, and then the malware or the toolbar or the plugin. If we click on a certain item, can you click, Joshua? Then they'll cover it. What they do is they do in real-time analysis of the page and immediately offer similar products at a lower cost from maybe one of the affiliates. Sometimes it's even the malware is working together with another site, so they're focused on another site in that specific domain. And again, this can happen also at the checkout page. So it's really when the person is ready to buy, that malware will offer something at a cheaper price and pretty much inject their own content. If we go to the next slide, another one is redirection. If you click here, click on a certain place within the page, you will be redirected to something similar or something that is not very relevant, but it's redirection, it's clickjacking, and this is the hacker's term. They get money from being an affiliate or just by generating traffic to other sites. And we're talking here, it's important to say, as I mentioned, 5% of Google, of all of Google users had malicious toolbars. 5% had edge injectors. So we're talking about very big numbers out there that are experiencing these type of problem. And of course, if anybody is interested in the research, I'll be happy to share the Google's research with you after this presentation. If we go to the next slide, we have just viewability issues where, again, the malware, the plugin, the toolbar can be malicious or legitimate. They own pretty much the browser, and they can do whatever they want. So sometimes they try to do a certain thing, and they cause maybe the page to freeze. They can show different ads, but they can also just cause havoc on the website, and the user is unhappy. And of course, the user will always blame the website. He's unaware that he has something on his computer that is doing that. He thinks that this is a problem with the website. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So what do we do here? And here we'll go through it relatively quickly. It's very technical, but I'll give you pretty much the highlights of how we deal with these types of highly complex problems. Okay, so if you can click a couple of clicks, I'll cover it relatively quickly. I won't dive too much into it. But the bottom line is that what we do is we have, this is a SaaS service, so you pretty much all you have to do is enable a script that we work together with Zoey to provide customized for your site. That script analyzes the page in real time and then looks for behavioral anomalies, signatures of known attacks, known types of malware and plugins and so forth. And it's an ongoing machine learning type of SaaS service. So you keep on learning, identifying the signatures, analyzing them in real time. All of the website that we support benefit from one website introducing a new malware. We analyze it in real time, we capture it, and then we protect all of our websites from these types of attacks. So all you have to do is upload that script. The script is asynchronic, no latency on the website. Simply analyzes at its own pace the page, and if it sees something that is considered to be bad, and again, it's zero false positive. So we know it's bad because we've analyzed it, because it's something that we've experienced within other sites. We block it. But initially, what we offer all of our partners, all of our customers, is to just have let's say, a detection mode. So we enable the script. We give you a dashboard. You'll see if you have 10%, 15%. We even got to like 40% of the users that are being affected by these types of attack. Why, where they're coming from, where they're directing the traffic to. Is it to competitor sites? Is it to a partner site? Are you experiencing an affiliate scam? Affiliate scam, just for an example, when they see somebody getting to your site, immediately they inject their own cookies, so you'll pay them for their affiliate services. So all these types of things happen. Another dangerous attack that we see happening more and more is types of ransomware. If you have ads on your site, the hackers can simply add their attack via the ad network. It takes the exchange it so many hands, so suddenly the user goes to your site and download one of those malwares from one of those from an ad that you gave him, and it causes again a lot of blacklisting by Google. So it's becoming more and more of a problem. So you have the detection and alert, and then once you feel that okay, listen, if you see that 1-2% of your users are affected by this type of attack, maybe it's not worthwhile to go further. But if you say, okay, you see 8%, 10%, and more, then we'll work together to simply block those malicious scripts. So far, on average, we've seen up to 15% increase in click-through ratio. Page views, once blocked, a user used to have like 6 page views on average. It moved to 16. So in certain verticals, especially in e-commerce, we see a significant result. And again, this is a SaaS service, so it's a very easy installation, just one line of JavaScript. Next slide. Okay, so again, we're working also with banks and publishers and e-commerce sites and search engines and other types of sites that are highly targeted. So we detect on all, we protect on all, and we learn from each and every site. So the information goes to our machine learning, deep learning engines. We get the results, and then we send back the signatures to everyone. So again, once an attack happens on a banking site, already pretty much within hours, the publisher, all of the e-commerce sites, the publisher sites, and so forth, are already ready for that. And once we capture one type of attack, because the way we classify it and the behavioral analysis that is being done, we are also protecting against all the permutations of these types of attacks. So it's something very very strong and can protect the site, in a very effective manner. Next slide. Okay, can you click again? So again, a bit about more about the technology. We're using pretty much all the buzzwords again because it's very complex technology. The big data, deep learning, machine learning. We're using crowdsourced, but as well as professional, all types of dark web information that is available, professional services. It's a cat and mouse game, so we always keep ahead of the hackers. Next slide. So once you install the script, it takes us a couple of days to take the data, classify it, analyze, provide the detection in real time, and then we share with you a dashboard where you can see the number of attacks, where the attacks are coming from, which pages are being attacked, what are the attacks that are actually happening. You can replay sometimes the attacks and see what your users are currently seeing. When you think that they're shopping, they might see your product, but also competing product on your page. And again, they cannot differentiate where this information came from. Next slide. So in summary, we have the learn mode, which is the detection, and we always start with detection mode because we want the user to feel to understand what is the magnitude of the problem that they are currently facing, and ask us, have a deep dialogue with us to understand where it's coming from, how it's affecting, and what can we expect or recommend the protection will provide on CTR, page views, and so forth. And this process usually takes 3 weeks to 1 month, where we have and we analyze and we have the discussions and we decide to move to protection. Nothing changes. You just give us the okay, and then we enable the script to do protection in real time, and it will pretty much ensure that the page that your users are seeing is what you planned for them to see, and there's no third-party injection or interference in any regard from ad rejection, from hacking attempt, but also from user experience perspective. And the bottom line would be to see an increase in page views and in user experience, and ultimately in revenue. This is what we see with the vast majority of our customers. Next slide. Okay, so I don't think we have time to go into a demo, but definitely feel free to reach me directly. We'll set up a follow-up discussion, and we can present to your specific site the types of attacks that are currently relevant and discuss the potential implementation. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Tal. And one thing I just want to mention, because I think it's sometimes helped to have a visual in certain cases, if people think about it, if you're a user of Skype, for instance, and you download Skype, many times it'll ask you if you want to put in a browser plugin that makes the phone number clickable so you can easily dial it. And that's an example of exactly what Tal is talking about. It's a plugin that's designed to do something to the content inside your browser. And sometimes it's, you know, a little bit more benign and it's designed to help you, but it does obviously interfere with your site because it's doing things to the site that the customers are on. And then sometimes there are things that are happening that the customer doesn't even know, and it's taking over. And so, you know, there's these types of concerns come up a lot, and PageSeal is obviously working to address that. So we really appreciate that walkthrough, Tal. And at this point, what I do want to remind everybody is that now that we're entering the Q&A, inside GoToWebinar, there is a questions feature. You can submit your questions directly to me, and I will work with the panel to get you answers. If for some reason after the presentation you think of something that you didn't ask, you can also email me at josh@zoey.com. That's josh@zoey.com. I'll be happy to get those questions out to our panel and also connect you to any of the panel members should you forget their information. Uri, I have a couple of questions that came up relating to your part of the presentation. The first one relates to SSL Checker and Labs, and the question is around whether it's a part of Zoey or a separate site that people would be utilizing to check it out.
So the question is about the SSL Checker and SSL Labs and how to use it. Is that correct?
Basically, that's the idea.
Okay. Well, these are just websites, so they're very easy to use. Essentially, all you would need to do is, you know, I mean, you can Google either one and get the URL, or we can send it after the webinar for those of you that need it. But all that you essentially need to do is just go there, type in the URL of your store, hit submit, and it will run the check or the test and then give you the results.
Excellent. We had another question for you. And this question relates around just more fraud detection in general. Are you aware of any third-party services that can help scan and alert relating to fraudulent orders? So examples would include stolen credit cards, freight forwarding deliveries, addresses, and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and of course, a pretty important topic in general for merchants. So there's a few things that Zoey offers out of the box, and then there's a few things that are coming down the pipe. Number one, you should always check your payment gateway. So payment gateways, whether it's authorized.net, whether it's PayPal, whether it's Braintree, generally have some level of fraud protection. I understand that it's not always comprehensive, it's not always everything that you want, but that would be the first place that I would check and look at. Number two, if you do talk to your payment gateway and they don't have the functionality that you want, sometimes they are able to add on third-party services. So, for example, you know, Count is one of them, K-O-U-N-T, for fraud detection is one of them. Now, if your payment gateway does not support any additional fraud or screening or anything like that, Zoey does offer the X Payments payment gateway. X Payments is a third-party company, but essentially the way that it would work is within Zoey, you would add the payment method for X Payments, and then you would plug in your X Payments credentials. On the checkout, your orders would actually go through X Payments and then would go through whatever payment processor you want. X Payments does have complete fraud detection using Count, so that is a way that you can have a very, very high level of security and safety around fraud prevention and order fraud management. So again, essentially what you would do is you would sign up for X payments, you would go into Zoey, you would go into the payment methods, you would add X payments, you would configure it, you would then configure X payments and count together, and then you would get that level of security. Beyond that, as I mentioned, down the road we are planning some additional things, and that is to bring fraud and order management detection right as a native app to Zoey. So for those of you who are unaware, we are currently in the process of working with many different companies and bringing their extensions to Zoey. It's part of a very large effort that we're undertaking with the release of our developer toolkit in January. And so hopefully in the next few months you will see many new apps in our App Store, one of those categories being fraud management for order processing. But until such time, there are certainly at least 2 or 3 other alternatives that you can take advantage of today.
Great, thank you. Tal, we have a couple of questions relating to the PageSeal presentation. The first one is around cost. Do you have packages that you can share, or what's the expected cost that people might see working with PageSeal?
Right, so it really depends from site to site. We per the numbers of users that are being protected on a monthly basis, and the prices range. It really depends from thousands of dollars per month for, let's say, medium sites to tens of thousands, and then that's, a larger site is 12 million users per month. So it's open for discussion. So we need to go through the detection mode, and then we can provide an estimate.
Thank you. And then we have another question related to whether PageSeal is currently available in any Zoey plan natively. At this time, no. It's not to say that it won't be in the future, but at the moment, it is an additional service. So it's something that you would add on to your Zoey site through the one line of code that Tal mentioned earlier, and you pay for them separately. It's a separate service. And before we wrap, I'll just give everybody one last chance to submit questions. Once again, you can use the questions feature inside GoToWebinar to submit your question. And if we didn't address your question today, again, just a reminder that we can follow up with you. Just email josh@zoey.com, and I'll be happy to also get those answered for you and connect you to the right team to answer it. While we're waiting just to confirm if there's any other questions, one other thing I'll just quickly review is just a reminder that we would love your feedback about the webinar series. We'd like to know what you thought of today's webinar, and also learn what topics you'd like to hear about in the future. You can email me at josh@zoey.com, and I'll be happy to take your suggestions and your feedback. We'd like to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. It helps us make sure that this is relevant to you and gives you the best information possible. We'd also like to remind you that we do have more webinars to come. The complete list of webinars is available on our website. You can go to zoey.com/merchant-webinars, and you're going to get this page right here, and you'll be able to see the upcoming presentations that we have. You'll also be able to view our previously recorded webinars. We've had 2 previously so far, currency conversion as well as shipping refunds with 71 pounds. If you go to the website, not only can you view the recording, you can also download the slides so you can actually view the presentation up close and personal. And just a reminder that we also have the next webinar is going to be a week from today. It's going to be a presentation with Storia. They have a service called Traffic Booster. They use a combination of automated marketing and personalization techniques to help drive targeted traffic to your store, which can lead to more conversions. They'll present a way for you to be able to use this inexpensively, and we'll be presenting that March 29th at 10 a.m., so that's earlier than this presentation, Eastern Daylight Time. And then 2 weeks after that, we're working with, as Uri mentioned, we have apps starting to come to the app marketplace through our new developer toolkit. One of the first to reach the finish line and join us is Addressy, and we're going to present their app and what you can do with it, which includes address validation in checkout, which helps you reduce shipping errors and also improve the checkout experience by reducing the number of steps needed to fill out the checkout forms. So that will be April 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We hope you'll join us for both of those, and we'll have more to come. Be sure to check our page to see the latest. At this point, it doesn't look like we have any further questions, so I want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I'd also like to thank our panelists, Uri, Luke, and Tal, for joining us and sharing their knowledge with us today. And once again, we'll have a recording of this webinar available within 24 hours that you can view later. Thank you to all, and we'll talk to you soon.